right.
First, I'm gonna say this has been a busy month, and I have tried to think of all the ways you wanna look at this budget, analyze the numbers. I'm sure I haven't thought of everything, as I was just thinking of new ways today. So I started out by handing out a line-by-line, budget versus actual of revenue and expenditures. I have a couple breakdowns. I broke down budgets, overall accounts for each of the schools, if we want to look at them per school. I also printed out more detailed expenditures for purchase services, building ops, and grounds. And I have expenditure comparisons by account with all the schools lumped together. So before I start throwing all sorts of pieces of paper at everybody, what is your pleasure on how you want to do this? Do you want to look through the expenditure line items and like ask some questions? I can pull up the finance, and because honestly, knowing every little line and every little expenditure, I just don't know off the top of my head sometimes.
I just want clarity for you, actually. I think we scheduled this for 4 to 5, and are we sticking with 4 to 5? Because I actually think it impacts what you're asking.
Absolutely.
If we're staying within that window, which I think we have to, because we said we would, that might change people's perspectives about what we look at today. As a start.
Wes. Hey.
Hey, what's up?
I got you. No, I got it.
I got it. Sit, stay, I'm good at that.
And I think,
I don't know how much we can do.
Yeah, we have an hour, so.
we have an hour, and I guess, my understanding of what today was gonna be about was looking at the budget and in anticipation of me then starting the discussion about budgeting in the next meeting next week and going from there. So, I think then why don't we look at the fund balances again to start with, because I think that's a good place to start. I handed this out, or it was part of, I think, the last meeting, but
Somebody give them one of these?
I did get one of those,
Oh,
yeah.
you handed them up? Okay, thank you.
And then we can get into maybe that will lead us into a more detailed conversation, depending on how you want to go from there. So this again is unaudited. I have auditors coming in a week and a half. So we'll start getting that narrowed down, but our accruals have been paid. Most revenues that will go back to fiscal year 25 have come in. And so from the best of my putting together of numbers, you overspent your expenditure budget by $265,000, which is below the fund balances. You brought in revenue unanticipated above what we had budgeted by $424,000. The $265,000 that was overspent was partly, they were items that were all board approved. They start with the baseball field backstop for $20,000 and the crisis security improvements for $145,000. That's that 165 that starts off our general fund because it was surplus from 24 that the board agreed to spend in those areas. Then, as noted in some of the fine print, the 5-year copier lease was an SU board decision to pay upfront to save some interest. That ended up costing $91,000 to West River. It all flowed through Wyndham Central, but then it was broken down by schools and the equipment and usage. The other thing that I didn't mention here, but Greg reminded me about, is there was also PCBs at Newbrook that we did not get refunded for, and we knew we weren't getting refunded for, but we wanted to spend up to 60, and I believe it was 20,000 that ended up costing. And that was when we were looking into construction at Newbrook, and we wanted to make sure everything was all clear. So those items total up to just over 265,000. So overall, we met our expenditure budget other than those items, and obviously came in with much more unanticipated revenue, which is leaving the general fund with a surplus of $324,834 for fiscal year 25. And I believe you had a warning that indicated that that money will be rolled over into your reserve fund once it is audited and confirmed. So I expect that the 1.3 million that you have in reserves will go up by another 324,000. So that's where fiscal year 25, kind of in a nutshell.
I see the 1.3.
Right, I didn't add in the, so the 324 is at the top line, and I'm just saying that would then be added in after the audit is done. And the notations that I put off to the side of those fund balances that we have committed, 348,600, including 95,000 from the SU after school towards the current year fiscal 26 budget, and then 100,000 from what was the food service towards fiscal year 26. So the expenditure lines, obviously, there is, as I noted on below the fund balances, some of the overspent areas had to do with paraeducators, which we took on knowing we had some fund balances or some unspent direct instruction from Jamaica that was budgeted. We had health insurance that was another 40,000 over. We had significant insurance.
Was the health insurance due to the parish as well or not?
It's small amounts, sure, it all adds up.
Gotcha.
Insurance went up a lot, and it's going to be, we did not budget enough when we were budgeting for 26, because we had no clue how much insurances were gonna go up. That was significant, so we're gonna see that higher than what we budgeted for in 26. Certainly, I know that Greg did a great job and a lot of improvements in our buildings, and we knew that based on what was needed. We knew we had some play because of the from the direct instruction teachers that were budgeted for, but we knew we weren't gonna be running full Jamaica. So we tried to get a lot done in building improvements this past year. So those are definitely overspent, specifically in those categories, trying to make up for the shortfalls we've been having over the years. And we had, I wanna say you had a report done at Leland and Gray regarding safety that showed a lot of things that needed to be repaired. And so we took that and tried to tick off some of the most important safety issues there.
Yeah, we had that was the gym inspection that was done, that was the basketball hoops, we did all the new safety pulleys and the electrical for all that, and then the repairs on the bleachers, so.
So knowing that, let me hand out these. This is the building ops breakdowns, sort of gives you a little bit of an overview.
Hey, Mary,
Yes,
before you jump from this, just so I have it in my mind.
sure, thank you.
So the net of the revenue and the overspend is about 150,000 to the positive. Right, netting 425 and 265.
Yes, yes.
We, at the end of the day, the reserve fund will probably net out to about the same
Yeah,
with the
Actually, a
additional
little bit more.
325 and then netting out what we had spent. So we're roughly landing in the same place in terms of.
sure, I think, yes, I think you could say that for sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for summing that up in a way that I did not.
So the starting fund balance was not moved over?
That starting fund balance was not moved because the board chose to set it aside for specifically the crisis and safety improvements and the backstop for the baseball team. So
Actually, the backstop was different, that 165, actually, your number's off 20 grand here. Because you gave me 125 for the safety things, and then there was the 40 grand for the baseball field, for the lower baseball field. That we had to regrade all that, and we had to do
So
the.
it's still 165,
So,
I
but
just
then you
broke it
still,
down.
then they also did the 20 for the backstop, because I didn't even propose the backstop, that was the volunteer group that proposed that, and the board supported that. So.
There was a meeting, so my mistake on the specifics, but 165,000 we put in a sign, so the auditors didn't move that or didn't look at that as being moved to the reserve fund because the board made a motion to hold that 165 of surplus and spend it out in the current fiscal year. So that did not get moved to the reserve fund, correct? Okay, so that's going around, and then I'll just put around purchase services. I think these are mainly self-explanatory, but it's good to have that breakdown too. Oh, and let me, this is the grounds, Leland and Gray grounds is another place that was overspent that I printed that off, which should be more like West River grounds actually, but it's listed in Leland and Gray grounds. I guess this one could also go with it. So these are the expenditure comparisons by account, but you can also have a breakdown. This is compiled with all, again, all the school budgets together, and it's takes them out by groupings of accounts. So you'll see salaries and benefits, purchase services for professional, purchase services for property.
This year.
Yes, that is correct, yeah. And I tried to break it down. There's some, so the general fund is up above. Some of our other funds that we see that impact the food program, the reserve fund, the Journey East capital projects, just to break down based on what was adopted for 25, what was actually spent 25, variances, and then I also put in fiscal year 24. I did that on a lot of these, just so you can see where our increases were over the year to year. And then I took this expenditure comparison and I just sort of tried to sum up some of what in each category, because it can be confusing of where things get attached. And I have to say, you know, going through the line by line, sometimes you'll find something. When you have different staff helping do purchase orders, some people don't always apply it in the exact same place that I would. So we've tried to move things around, but occasionally you'll find something in a category that it could have been something else. So, yeah, so just digest some of that for a couple minutes.
I would say the thing that jumps out to me immediately is the 5,400. Oh, it's not. So we had budgeted 302,000 and ended up at 734,000. 470,000 over budget for plowing, sanding, cleaning,
Yes.
building repairs, maintenance, properties. Okay.
That's just your general, everything maintenance.
Yes, and you can.
That's all, yep,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Again, that number takes into account the 165,000 that wasn't part of the budget, and the 20,000 PCBs should be on this. Oh,
So if you want a little bit of a breakdown on some of this stuff, I have a little bit of it here for you. I didn't make a ton of copies, you may have to share, but I tried to just get 3 board members. There's your 125 of your safety money that you gave me and where that went. Another one of those. Yeah, I got one more of those. Then this was the whole SU, but this was all the capital projects for last year. Last year we did almost $1 million in capital projects in the summer. So we're driving that around the SU. And then throughout the school year, between like some of the projects Jake did and some of the repairs at Leland and Gray, some of the repairs at Townsend, Newbrook, Jamaica, and just whatnot. So these were all that we did an additional over 300,000 in there, and there they are. So you can see them. You can see who it was paid to, what was done.
More of those.
So, I think I only have 3 of that one. I can print it again if someone else wants it, but,
Okay.
so you can see, the one thing I remember saying to Bob in the spring was like, man, I feel like, I'm tired and we haven't started this summer yet, and it's because it felt like it never ended, because if you look, we were doing repairs to the buildings all year long. Look at the dates and whatnot on some of those POs, I don't know if they're all on there, but it was a pretty consistent run of trying to get this done, try to use money to get that done, even after summer, so that was capital, that was all done pretty much during the summer, except Townsend wasn't. They were, I think, a week or 2 into school, but like, the door on the security, when that door didn't get done until, I think it was in April. It took a while to find a vendor, and then it was a 10-week lead time on the door, something crazy like that. There was a ton of repairs at Leland and Gray with HVAC things and problems that we found, the units that weren't running. And so as we were able to track and see that we were doing well in other areas, we just kind of kept getting things fixed and reinvesting back in the buildings as much as we could. So.
That speaks a little bit to the state of buildings and which Emily
Yes.
knows about.
And so again, that 265,000 that we're over is part of this 734, because the
Yeah.
copier leases are in there, I leave those in, just because they are on 2 pages, so I wanted to make sure we lump them all together.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
265 of
Yeah,
the
Of the
416.
416 is, of the board approved over the budgets.
So. Yeah, I try to keep it so that, if you all want to ask questions, we can show you, what we're doing, where we're doing it, why we're doing it.
We were also very aware that in the current year, we have a lot less money to spend. It's definitely tightening, and going forward, we're not quite sure where you're gonna go with trying to find the funds for business, for facilities, that's what I was trying to say, for facilities and improvements and repairs. So I think it's important to note that this past year, we utilized the fact that we had an extra 150,000 in the budget that we knew was gonna go away.
So this was $1 million estimate for all these CapEx. So what does the upcoming fiscal years look like in terms of things that require immediate attention?
I just worked on that the other day. We'll propose that with your budget. If you want, I can pull it, but yeah, there's quite a bit. I moved, like Newbrook needs some windows replaced. They've got some windows, they've got a fire alarm panel that needs to be done.
In the library?
Yeah, well, and your nurse, your office
Yeah, all
area.
that whole
Yeah,
stuff
like
in the
that, kind of
building.
that wing around there.
It
Definitely
gets
needs
direct
the
sunlight,
windows
they're deteriorating real bad, a couple of them are falling off there.
done.
Thank you.
Townsend on the capital plan was in there for the painting, exterior painting, which if you do look, it's getting to be in pretty rough shape over there. Leland and Gray actually is 2 years overdue on a backup boiler for the wood chip system, the oil boilers. It's in pretty darn rough shape. So those were kind of the main ones that I had on there for this year. I'll find it here real quick just to give you an idea of what that total was in the capital. For this year was 210. 210 there, yeah. I mean, you gotta remember that's Dover's roof on there, that was 300, that's the whole SU. I just did it because I kind of got thinking as we went, because like Marlboro did a capital project, Wardsboro and Dover did, and I was like, man, how much did we do this year? And I was like, wow, we almost did $1 million across the SU in capital projects. That's impressive, and I think last year we did, for West River, we did 293. So,
It's a little later.
Gotcha, oh, I see, so this is SU-wide.
that's SU-wide, that million is
293.
SU-wide. So last year you did 293 of it was you all, and so.
So the next piece would be maybe looking at the individual schools, what was sort of the variance in what we budgeted, what we actually spent. If you want to start pulling it apart, those are defined by salaries, benefits, professional services, purchase services, supplies. I don't wanna throw it at you if it's too much, but I feel like it's the next piece in sort of looking at and what we're gonna think about when we move forward. We can set it aside and maybe just take it when you leave, and we can have it as discussions for next time, but, I think reviewing what was spent, understanding what we've spent in maintenance, Greg will be putting together something for budgeting purposes going forward. I have not, when we start thinking about next year, we have not met with principals yet, and obviously the SU budget has just gotten started, but this was an important piece of understanding where we're at moving forward.
I would just say, for the big ticket items, salaries, benefits, it looks like we were down 4%. I assume that's for vacancies.
Yes, for positions that were not filled, yes. Yeah, we had a few of those,
Not for lack of trying.
yeah.
Goodness.
I think we're more up to par this year than we were last year, right? I don't think there's too many
I think the SAP just got hired. I think we're,
at full capacity now.
there's a few pairs that are still getting plugged in, but those are too specialized. So I think the West River stuff, I think, is fully staffed.
Yeah.
I think the other two districts that actually have employees are not, so.
Heidi, anything, other things that we should be focusing on in terms of?
No, I think it's fairly self-explanatory, understanding that there was some positions that weren't filled that are gonna be filled, that are filled this year. The benefits, we calculated as best we could, knowing how much the insurances went up, and we were fairly close with benefits. I think it comes down to the work Greg has done and the cost of just the maintenance has skyrocketed for projects. So I think that's taken into account.
Buildings aren't any younger.
I think the other pieces, the subs are costing us a lot of money in West River. I think that's worth noting. We've under budgeted the last few years, and certainly the master contract that pays for teachers to cover has had a huge impact on the sub budget, to be quite frank.
We already can't get subs.
Yeah.
And we're having to pay teachers to, and even beyond the financial, like, it takes a toll on the staff because they don't prep. They've got to do more at home. Like it wears people out fast.
Absolutely. But I have to say, when you pay somebody $40 or $50 an hour versus paying a sub for $18 an hour, which was actually $16, $16.66 last year, $18 this year. It's a huge cost per hour.
That's why we don't get anybody.
Well, that's why we raised it to $18.
Yeah.
We should get above Burger King was our.
At $18, that also may be a reason why you don't get
It could be. I mean, and I am very open to
And we
that
don't even pay
increase.
for their background checks.
I mean,
They have to go pay to do their
I think
fingerprinting,
though
to make $18 an hour for us.
so what's important to note is the regular ed subs are not making much money either. They're making $19, $20 of regular ed subs. So when we talked about raising the sub pay, we were limited on what the support staff are making. Now, their contract runs out and for this year, and they'll be renegotiating for next year. So I think there's a correction of what people are getting paid across the board. It just costs you more money.
I was gonna say too, I think, at least at my school, we serve a lot of kids that are, have intense special needs. And a lot of them have paras. And those paras are doing some of our very hardest work. So we do have some absenteeism that I don't think it's abnormal, but I think that we do. And when you're subbing for somebody who is actually getting paid just barely more than the subs, that's a lot. That adds up to the cost as well.
Sure.
Because the subs cost as much as the people that they're replacing almost. And I think that is one of the hidden costs of serving kids with intense needs is that staffing, you've got to, if you're trying to one-on-one staff somebody, you've got to think about that. You got to think about their lunches and their breaks, and you've got to have people to cover them when they're out. So it's a cascading cost.
It certainly is, and people can't live on $19 an hour, and when you're finding McDonald's paying
$22.50.
right, but again, at the bottom line, it will cost more money for everybody.
Do you know what other local districts pay for some?
We reached out
They're in the
to,
same ballpark.
yeah,
Our hope was to bump it a little higher, thinking we might steal some, but because again, we're not near population areas, the extra driving to get here for a couple 50 cents extra isn't worth it. Because they're paying the gas or whatever.
Yeah, I know that when I was still in Wyndham Southwest, we had to increase the sub pay, that was a couple of years ago, to $20 an hour, because we were, again, not a lot of population to draw from, and people the places we could draw from was like northern Massachusetts, and we were, even at $20 an hour, we were still
Low.
several dollars an hour
yeah.
away from what they were paying across the border. So I was just thinking, I don't know that it impacts Townsend very much, but if there are people who have a choice between going to, Dover or Twin Valley, they're probably paying 21 or 22 now. Well, I don't know. But, maybe they are making the choice to go to Twin Valley instead of Dover or Wardsboro.
Or if they live in Brad, coming to Newbrook might be, 10 minutes quicker than going to Townsend. So I've always felt advantaged in every way, really, because of my proximity to the big city and to housing that's affordable. Because nobody who's barely scraping by is living up, living up here. They're living down in.
But regardless of whether we have more subs or whether we're paying them more, the cost is going up is the point.
Yes,
Right now.
yes.
So we could offer more per hour, but it just means it's going to go up even more. As you go through that.
But if you can attract people to be high school subs and not pay high school teachers.
Well, I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
save money on paying
Absolutely.
teachers.
Yes,
It might be cheaper for that, correct.
yes. But not for us.
It's only,
What percentage of our sub time is now teachers versus actual subs? What's that split look like?
Yeah, we could figure it out. I mean, today we had teachers in rooms subbing. It's been every day all week, honestly, so we're short at least a sub a day.
We've talked about
And we
doing that
had-
analysis.
I think we have 2 subs that we can get regularly. So once we're over 2 people out of the building, we're in trouble. Tomorrow, we have 2 scheduled for data meetings. We called in a graduate who's gonna come and do math for half the day, then has to go to a soccer game in the afternoon. Like, we're pitching it together, but you still have, I think even tomorrow, we have teachers coming for one of our math teachers who are out for PD. I said, I think we have like 2 subs, honestly, we can
Do
rely
we
on.
have any full-time subs?
We haven't done that because of benefits. You have to pay benefits.
Would it be cheaper to pay the benefits than it is to pay the teachers to cover the?
That's a good analysis to consider with the benefits. I don't know.
My guess is on the elementary level, it wouldn't be, but from hearing what Dana just said, like that might be, and at the high school level.
If you have it every day and we're having a daily, maybe.
I don't remember too many days in my 7 years living there where there wasn't at least one teacher.
Yeah.
Maybe the first year, but even this year we didn't have that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it might be worth it, particularly when you're out there. Well, why don't we get Jenna to,
Yep.
not Jenna, actually, it's Emma now, to
Yeah.
Raise it to
So-
$25 an hour, include benefits and.
We can do a comp on the current rate versus what a full employee, full-time sub would
Right,
be.
I'm
versus-
just clarifying, is the full-time sub getting $18 sub pay, or are they getting more than that?
That's a good question. I mean, they can't get more than some of the parents, I would say. That would be.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
They will get, if they become an employee, they'll get covered by the master agreement, which means then that will drive a lot of the pay, but
They'll get
I
benefits.
know, the benefits is gonna be 18 to $20 an hour more. I mean, it's, if they took a family plan.
Right, chances are they won't get a family plan because they wouldn't be able to afford the family plans are $40,000 now.
That's exactly
So
right.
there's no way a person making $18 to $20 an hour is gonna be able to afford family planning.
Unless they're doing it because their
Yeah,
spouse
They're doing it
runs a
for the
plumbing
insurance,
company.
yeah, I was gonna say, and I know that
That's what you got.
most paras I know, that's the case, is they're there for the health insurance because it makes,
Yeah,
it
makes the
makes their
family.
husband able to do what he does,
What a
right?
sad conversation.
It is.
Like this is, and you know what's the saddest part, is that most of our work is
Infuriating.
trying to right the inequities of poverty to begin with, and yet we're creating poverty. And it's not just us, it's everywhere.
It's the most important work, right?
Yes, yeah, and we're trying to undo it. If any of my parents had kids in my building, they'd be the ones we'd be focused on.
So let me dump some more happy news. So as you're thinking about this past fiscal year, you're thinking about right now, as we start to think about next fiscal year, just a few of the things that have been floating around. So we're gonna be 0.5% behind for teacher salaries this year based on negotiations. We all know that going in. So we're looking at 5.5 for next year on top of that for this year. Healthcare, there's no number yet, but they're telling us to take the average of the last 2 years, so it's 13.7 for healthcare. That's what we're looking at for that. They have a threshold that they've floated out there, quickly yanked away. Another one of those examples, the AOE put a new one out. We don't know if it's really
Right.
going to hold, but there's a new number out, which doesn't do us any good because we don't have student counts yet. But those are the only things we really know. As of right now.
So if they skip the fire alarm system in Newburgh, because we're just gonna have to burn it down anyway.
Skip the what system?
The fire alarm system.
To burn down to collect the insurance.
Ideally, it doesn't,
Oh my
ideally, it doesn't
God,
go off.
can you imagine the school district?
Just don't let Scotty know.
Like,
No,
What
don't,
you
I'd
just
cry.
said is-
I would cry if my
What's
brother.
that? but I mean, what you just described is
This is
impossible. Like, it is impossible to put that in our budget.
Yeah, we estimated, I think when you're looking at very, very preliminary on the SU budget, it was what? Like $500,000 or
Yeah.
just in salary increases and benefits with status quo, $500,000. And the SU employs
Are roughly about the same.
about the same number of
as
people
West
as
River.
West River does. So it's gonna be comparable.
Yeah.
So just think about that, you're paying 60% of that extra $500,000 anyways.
I mean, it's not good news on however you look at it. But that's moving on to a different budget meeting.
Yeah.
That's not fiscal year 25's recap. But it does again explain why we put so much effort into the maintenance on the buildings, because
Trying to get ahead.
No money.
there's no money. There's no money.
Can I will share this out, and it's minor, and it probably doesn't have an impact, but I know at Leland and Gray, we sent Mike to training for keying and working on locks. And he's had the locksmith in, I think, 3 times now this year, and he told me that he's like, we're not gonna need him back. Through his training and work with the guy, he's gonna continue to re-key and change locks within the building and fix things, so like, we have 2 keys eliminated now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you don't have 4 or 5, like he's gone through a
That's
ton of
great.
the building, but like he's starting to get those skills where like, oh, the lock is, we had a door, Joe Toll's door, like we could, the guy showed him, gave it to, he's like, I gotta get this tool, it's working. So it's
Like
not
making
really,
those kinds of little improvements in what our staff can do.
yeah, investing in skills, right?
The bottom line.
Um,
We've been trying to think
It's-
long-term.
It's not huge, but it still makes a difference.
Yeah,
Like
it
we're not
does.
calling a person in to do the work.
Right.
Because other people can do it.
Yeah, I know Mike reached out to Alliance today to talk about, there's a bunch of pipes that you can just see they're corroding down in the water tank room because there's been slow leaks over years and whatever, and he was just like, hey, can I get a quote to get this repaired? And I called, I just called and said, hey, why don't you get the quote to repair that, and then let's look into a pro press. Because again, can we spend, yeah, right, you spend a little bit more for the pro press and then in your supplies, now you're just gonna add a little bit in your supplies every year, and you can take that money out, when we're paying people 125, 150 an hour, that adds up fast.
You get cheap plumbers.
Yeah, when we get them,
Cheap plumbers.
yeah, and
I
so,
couldn't believe you were under on Alliance. I was like, what?
yeah,
No way.
so we're never, don't worry, but it just, that's just like on a project here or there where things go better than we think, but, you know, we found with them that, you know, you're paying an hour and a half of getting someone here, and then an hour and a half for them to drive back, and so it just makes certain repairs just insane.
If they
So-
show up.
Yeah, and so we're just like, we need to find the time to do some more of this stuff ourselves, and so we've implemented a work order system and been working hard with those guys to create punch lists and have, you know, ongoing lists that we're doing so that we're kind of looking at these things. And I told every one of the guys this year that when Alliance comes to do their fall PMs, you have to free up. You need to walk around with them. I want to verify that everything is done. I want to verify that the repairs that we're paying for in our PM contracts are being done and done correctly. You know, we need to be able to know that because it feels like, and a lot of times it's just our old buildings, but sometimes it feels like we just had our PM a month ago, we turned it on, and 3 things are failing. You're like, but you were just here, so if you tested that and you greased it, then why didn't you at least catch it there? Why am I now calling you back and paying you that, you know, that time to come down? And so, and I fight with them as much as I can to try to be reasonable about it, but it just, yeah, it gets expensive fast. And so, yeah, we've been working hard on like, what can we do ourselves that we don't have to pay someone else.
And on top of all that, my chef was out for like a month, and your staff came in and took care of us. I mean, we literally, Pat Mace has been working breakfast and lunch for the last month. Jacob's been down. I mean, you guys, I don't know how you do it all.
Yeah, no, it has been, yeah, I mean, you know, we're short-handed in Townsend right now. We had a person take some had some personal time off. The cook at Newbrook's been down for weeks. I cooked down there a few days.
Yeah, you were down. And you should have seen him.
I crushed it. I'm just saying.
You did crush it, but you're a little chatty with the kids, but you did crush it.
All I'm gonna say is, she told me that it was the fastest they had ever served breakfast.
And actually, I ate one of your breakfast sandwiches. That was delicious.
Yeah, but we're just making it work, you know?
Are there any other areas, I mean, this is kind of actually exciting news where you can upskill and pull away from vendors that are like, yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5x of what you could do it for. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to, I mean, this summer, I mean, a perfect example this summer was we tore out the ceiling in the 2nd floor of the hallway at Newbrook, or at Townsend. Billy took the whole thing out, we ordered up all the supplies, and instead we bought one of those little 3-way lasers for a couple $100, and Billy and I put it in 5.5 hours, put in all the new track and the whole ceiling. So that all got done with just what we were planning on spending with our electrician and the money at Granite City, and which, again, the great thing with using Kings is they allow us to purchase all of our lights and whatever we want to do. So they show up and we just pay them a day's labor for 2 guys, and we've got a pile of stuff there, and then they just get it all done.
You know, another example is what you've done with grounds, because you hired a grounds guy that's a real grounds guy. And he comes out and knocks stuff out. Like he's done at my place in no time. And that's like, we used to like park these things out. I remember when I started the job, we were hiring the neighborhood guys, you know. And your guy comes down, he's got the nice equipment, he's down there for a day. And
he graded out all the driveways, graded out Jamaica, graded out Newbrook. He's been a breath of fresh air, but, you know, we were definitely lucky to get him from the town of New Pain. So, he's been amazing.
Is he ours only, WRD?
Yeah, he's West Rivers, yeah, so it's
we can
my
use him as a
spontaneous.
revenue source, can we get him?
Send him
We
tomorrow.
can try. We sure could. Well, he's, you know, we're hoping to have him plow central office this year, and you'll make a little bit of revenue from that, so. But he's been amazing. When we got the shed cleaned out behind Newbrook, and so now we're able to use that as storage again, which is, I mean, I didn't even know it existed until a year ago.
Oh, it's up to the ceiling with old busted desks.
Yeah, so we, you know, this summer we did
It's not
the
the shed,
dumpster and
you guys-
got it out of there, and we cut all the brush down, so actually you can drive all the way through and back down around by the basketball court or the.
It's the old place that used to be part of the fairground.
I know.
Okay, it was like the what do they call it?
Concession.
Concession
The
stand.
concession stand there, yeah.
Eyesore forever.
Yeah.
It's behind the tree line, so it's.
We're gonna pretty it up, and we're gonna start to use it. Again, he went down and bought 2 new springs down at WW, and the garage door is working again. So no, it's been great to have him. He, you know, there was a toilet that failed up in Jamaica, and another one that was already down, and I said, hey man, there's one sitting up in this room, can you just put it in? I have a meeting, and he was like, yeah, no problem, ran up and popped it in. So
So you have
Yeah.
limited resources and higher quality people.
Yeah, we're getting there for sure, man. We try to tell people that if we have the right people, that we can do a lot of things in-house, and we have. I think we've seen a lot of growth. I mean, Pat this summer painted, we've got 3 or 4 people that are painting classrooms. Billy painted a classroom at Townsend. He painted that hallway and another room. Pat painted 2 classrooms this summer.
You guys should come visit. I mean, you wouldn't believe how Newbrook looks. If you haven't been in Newbrook for a while, this man totally changed it.
Yeah, so we're just gonna, especially at 12 minutes, so what else do you guys need to know? What do you want to ask? What do you want us to do next? What's the thought process?
Drew, you had some questions that you had emailed us about earlier.
Yeah, no,
Some concerns for you?
I have,
Just-
I've got
There.
my own concerns about, the significant capital investment that was made that the board didn't know anything about. Whether that's what we want to use the last 10 minutes of the meeting for.
I think it's
Or
worth
something else.
discussing because
I'm also a little concerned about, so it sounds great to do your own work, like how much of that requires permitting in a public building? So like how much of our plumbing and electrical work is allowed versus having to drop permits? So if we're subcontracting as a plowing or a mowing contractor, does our insurance cover that? Because
our insurance is an umbrella over the SU, so any work that employees do within the SU is all covered under our liability insurance.
So Fisbee told us today.
So they cover contracting work. So if somebody slips and falls and sues us,
That is what insurance does cover, yes. Because even
can I have
if,
it in writing that they will cover us as a plowing and sanding contractor?
Well,
Because I don't believe.
we've been doing all the sidewalk sanding since I've been here. That's never been contracted out. All the sidewalks has always been us. We've done all the sanding. We bought all the sand every year.
And maybe that's great, and maybe they want to cover that. I would be shocked if we can sell those contracting services.
We're only selling it to one entity, which is the SU. You're not selling
Yeah,
it,
you're not really.
not putting it out in the open market.
Well, you would be if you were to send it over to Dover, right? Or you would take it to
Still part
Marlboro.
of the SU though. Anything
But
within
they're
the
separate
SU.
legal entities.
but they're all.
They're all the same
This is
insurance.
Our insurance
It's all
insurance
insurance.
plan is.
Did we catch up on this?
Sure,
This is-
sure.
So I
Yeah.
got several phone calls about why is it that we're buying shiny new equipment when we spent weeks talking about cutting programming? Because we did, we bought a whole bunch of new equipment. And I said, I don't know, it never came to the board. I had no idea that we were spending $100,000 on a new truck and sander and trailers and things like that. Never came up as a point of conversation. So I emailed back, it's like, where did this come from? And I see here, it's, we overspent that line by $50,000 is where it came from in last year's budget. Now I know where it came from, right? It was unbudgeted money that was spent last year. But it's concerning to me that these decisions are being made not in an open session, not with the board's knowledge, but just being made to spend this kind of money. And again, like you said, hiring this grounds person may be the greatest idea ever, but it's a $40,000 family, health insurance. So by the time you pay the salary, the truck, the plow, the sander, the $40,000 health insurance, is there a cost savings?
We already had the person.
But that was 2 years ago. I mean, we hired grounds.
But I'm saying-
2.5 years ago.
Sure, and
Okay.
if this person had that much extra time, then maybe we didn't need that person, and we could have looked at a staff reduction. But it was never brought in front of the board for a conversation during any of the budget conversations at all, ever. So to
As a
me,
reduction or
as if this was even a consideration, that we were going to get into the plowing business, that we were going to spend $100,000 in capital on equipment, like that never came up. I have an issue with that.
So,
I just need some more details. I don't.
so when I responded to Drew's email originally is,
Yeah.
so we had a truck, we have a trailer, we had a lawnmower.
Okay.
And they were breaking, not the truck. The lawnmower wasn't doing what needed to be done, and so in order to have enough, there's multiple things here, but let me just tell you that this is what Greg and I have been talking about throughout the year, was that the lawnmower wasn't a big enough machine to do what needed to be done at our facilities. So we had to get something that could do better. In order to do that,
And a quick pause there, and that's because the grounds guy is taking on more work at the different buildings.
Yeah, and now
Instead of
we're also gonna
contracting
be
it out.
mowing the towns in Leachfield as well now.
That reflects what we just talked about.
okay, and so we needed a different trailer that could carry the tractor or the lawnmower, so
Yes,
that.
the
we
other
could
issue is
handle
the previous years, we had borrowed trailers from people to move the tractor in order to
Work
spread
at
the
the
mulch
different-
at Newbrook, to spread the mulch in
Towns.
Wardsboro.
Yeah.
In the other schools, so we upgraded the trailer with earlier in the year, that was in like February, that we did that, and then we basically planned on balancing that out with the under expense of the maintenance, is where we were doing with the trailer, and then as the surplus came, and, I mean, you get,
So we started talking about a truck that would be capable to pull the trailer with the equipment that was needed to move it between our facilities.
Got it.
So when he said that, we said, how else could we make use of a truck that had more capability? So we sat and looked at the finances on how much was being spent out on plowing each year, which is about $40,000. And so when he started reaching out, talking to the Vermont State bid people about trucks and what we had and what we needed, it became clear that we could upgrade for less than $40,000. So he had the Vermont State bid guy give him some quotes, give us a trade-in. He got some individual quotes as well. And we didn't move on it right away because we were waiting to see whether financially it made any sense towards the end of the year. June was coming to an end, and I said, if we're gonna do this, we better do it now because we're not gonna have funds in the future years to do this. And what you're saying is you need this truck to move the trailer, to move the equipment. So let's save money in the long run by being able to plow as well. So
yeah,
you
we're not taking
found,
20 grand out of next year's budget due to not needing it. We kept a couple of other things a little bit, we bumped up like equipment maintenance, we bumped up, and I tried to keep some in there because like you just don't know, right? I mean, we don't have a ton of experience in it, and so it was like, well, we'll leave a little bit in there, but we'll hopefully be able to cut
So
more out even in the
we
future.
did not use capital funds, we used the operating budget to fund this. It was under 40,000 after the trade-in, so it didn't necessarily need to go out for bid, although by calling the Vermont State bid guy, they deal with multiple entities for the amount of money that we could get for a trade-in versus the truck cost.
Yeah.
So we
The guy
made
at
the
state-
financial
yeah,
decision.
The guy at the state said, hey, you have to make a decision by this day. We didn't know financially if we really had the capability to do it until it was basically a day after that. And I was like, oh, I reached out to him and he never even responded. And I think that's because with the lead time for the order, he would have been past July 1. So technically they don't know that they would have the bid again, right? Because it's all a 1-year thing. And so he just never really responded. So we started to look locally, and we basically matched the price anyways locally, and so we moved forward locally. That was, the whole point was to try to do it ourselves, do better, kind of like we did with lawn care. I think our lawn care is 1,000 times better than it ever was when we paid for it. And when we sold that 2 years ago, it was, we don't know that we're really saving you money, but we think we can do a way better job. And I think at this point, you can see that. I mean, you look at our fields right now, they're green. Our irrigation system is finally working. That thing's been piecemeal for years, and we finally have it up and running. And so it's taken longer than I think any of us would have liked, but we're getting there. So we're trying to improve quality and sustainability.
So ultimately, you questioned whether we had the authority to do that. I mean, based on our financial procedures manual, we do, because it wasn't capital funds, it was under
It's
40,000.
not under 40,000. I'm gonna challenge this because you sold an asset
I
and you
understand
purchased
that.
another asset. The purchase price of the new asset is over 40,000. Like, this is
I
a game.
State
and I'm
bid
like,
language,
I understand
the state
that
bid
you-
language says if the final purchase is not over 40,000,
the final purchase was over 40,000.
it was 36,489.
Not the money that had to come out. And I've actually reached out to business managers around the state to see what they say. And they agree, it's all a great area, but they would have done the exact same thing. understand your concern, and certainly we will take that in consideration moving forward. We weren't trying to be sneaky about something, and we weren't trying to hide it from the board. We were trying to take the funds that we were fiscally responsible for and making improvements that will help the bottom line in the future years. That's where my decision came from.
If you had come to the board, you would have come to inform us, not to ask us for permission. This is what you
It
were.
was outside of the budget. It was not budgeted funds.
I don't,
There's
I
$160,000 that
don't
were
agree
outside of
with
the
that.
budget right there too.
Right, and those other things, you came to the board and asked
We
to
did
be
not,
outside
we
of the
didn't go
budget.
to you for any of those.
The projects that we authorized,
These right here, we didn't go to you for any of that, or that.
so then I guess we need to have fiscal policy that says you can't spend money that wasn't budgeted. Like,
Again,
if you don't
question
value
is-
the board's input enough to
So,
follow the budget at all, is that what you're saying? Like,
We
you just
absolutely
spend
do.
whatever you want, 250,000 or more?
So, hold on.
Like, that's what I just heard you say, is we don't care what you say. We're going to-
Hold on. So our job, in my opinion, from what I have understood becoming the business manager, is the voters vote on a budget. They're not voting on a line by line item. They're voting on the bottom line of the funds raised to spend out money. From what I have shown you, we did not overspend our expenditure line except for the items that we went to the board for. So I disagree with what you're saying respectfully.
That's fine.
I understand what you're saying, and I think there is a definite discussion to be had if you want to create some sort of I don't even know, a policy on what comes to this board. I ask you to consider carefully on restraining us from doing our job in between board meetings, but I certainly understand your concern that there are things that you want to be told about. I honestly felt like we were making the right decision at the time, and I really thought the board would have said, great idea, go for it if we brought it. But we were just trying to finalize the budget year as quickly as possible and use what we had available in the budget. So I just want to emphasize, we weren't trying to do anything behind your back. We really ultimately were talking about how can we save money going forward. And so I apologize, because it definitely was partly my decision to do this at the last minute. There is absolutely no gain for us as individuals or as an SU. This is a West River thing. But I hear what you're saying. And I will most definitely, if it came down to this, I will bring it to a board next time.
And I don't sign contracts. Like, I'm not doing anything unilaterally. Like, I'm well aware that you're going to notice the 3,500 diesel red truck. You know what I mean? Like, we're not thinking we're pulling the wool over on anyone when you see an 20-foot trailer down below.
But you didn't think to tell the board about it at any point in the last 3 months? Like, it wasn't in a report, it didn't come up in a superintendent's report, it didn't come up in your report, we've had board meetings, like, no one thought that, hey,
I viewed it,
we've
to be
made
honest,
this
I viewed
massive
it,
change.
I viewed
in
it
our
as
plan.
as replacing a piece of equipment with a better piece of equipment. That's how I viewed it, or multiple pieces of equipment.
And I don't think this is very unusual. I mean, this is a single thing, but we've done this many times. We meet once a month. And as long as
And we get updates once a month, and there was plenty of opportunities to give us an update about a very expensive piece of equipment that we bought.
I recognize that your perspective is that, and I'm not
That is
denying
my
that it's, I'm acknowledging that. But I'm just saying that I'm not seeing the outside of the ordinary in our past practice of doing any of this. I really am not. Although I think your message is being sent, I would be opposed to a policy to limit the ability for our folks that we hire to do work for us on our behalf. I don't want to limit that, but I'm happy to say, well, look, the next time something like that happens, please bring it to the board and let us know that it's happening. That's all, because, you're raising concerns. But I don't think that it's outside of the norm, nor do I think we should be micromanaging every dollar that's been being spent even the larger amounts. I feel really
So
concerned about that.
previously, when I first started, basically, it would be that like April, right, March, April time, I would bring to the business manager, hey, here are some projects, can we afford to do any of these? And as long as we were under the budget, she would make the call. And she would sign the contracts and we would do that. And, I mean, again, it doesn't benefit me personally in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to invest back in your schools and to make them better. I'm not trying to throw away money. I'm trying to make us sustainable. I'm trying to make us more, you know what I mean? Like, I have a rooting interest in seeing this all be successful. You know, I show up every day and pour 10 to 12 hours a day into this district. It's not because I don't care about it. You know, like I genuinely do, man. I genuinely care about the work that I do and the buildings that I serve and the communities that I serve and being transparent. So I apologize for not putting it in a report and adding it. We made the purchase, I think, in like early June, and at that point, it was go time for me. And I haven't been to a board meeting yet this year. You know, I've been trying to like kind of recover, to be honest, because like I said, it didn't feel like last year there was ever, I've been here 5 years, the job hasn't slowed down yet. You know, it's a struggle. I took 2 days off last week and I was being called at 1:45 in the afternoon in the woods on my day off because we had a power line down out in front of the building, you know, like it, I don't tend to know what days are off are, man, it's hard. So I apologize if you feel like I'm being disingenuous in any way. And
We thought we were doing the job.
yeah,
that we
we're
were supposed to
doing the
do.
best I can, really, truly.
I would agree. Yeah. I mean, you went through the bid process.
Not really.
Well, we explored the bid thing, we didn't use it, and
We followed fixed asset or capital policy.
we followed policy and
We
procedures.
followed our financial procedures, yes.
And I'm gonna bring up the SU meeting, because the financial procedures the SU have basically says that SU can do whatever they want with the money. So there's really no fiscal controls in the fiscal manual. The SU staff can dispose of district assets however they choose. They can give them away, trade them. There's nothing in there about fair market value. So if they wanted to spend that, if they want to give that truck away tomorrow to their brother-in-law, they can according to the fiscal policy.
So
the
it's
way written.
interesting, Drew, I've been actually making some
So-
changes to that area of the financial manual because that came up. And I was reaching out to other business managers and got some copies of what they have. A lot of them are very gray, but
Ours
it's
is
interesting, we're both
just-
thinking about the
It's
same
missing
things.
like anything that
But-
involves fiscal control.
But do you know why this was an adopted thing by the SU board and it has passed the muster of audits for years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like, yes, it might not be sufficient, but it has been sufficient, you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing stopping us from adding to it, for sure.
absolutely.
I think it's a good conversation for the SU board to have around where those things should be, for sure. We're not looking to, again, give away things to benefit, you know, ourselves individually or to other people. It's not, well, a perfect example is I came to you to talk about the materials at Jamaica School, to figure out what to do with them. We're not just giving them away to let people drive out the truck with them. We're coming to the board and talk about what do we do with that stuff? Because we know the optics of the pickup truck backing up to Jamaica School, loading it up with shit and taking it away.
Absolutely.
So I think that should give you like at least sort of a, you know, we're trying to do the right thing. It might not always come out the way you want it, but we are trying, and we clearly have people who care about the district and what they're doing.
So since I'm still catching up here, how much was the truck?
Net cost,
Got it.
36,489.
Well.
What did we put on the depreciation
What was
schedule?
yeah, right, what was the sticker price of the truck?
63.
63, and we traded in, and so.
Well, it
net-
was
net
60, sorry, John, it was 61 and change, I'm sorry. We got 25 for our old truck.
That's a
So
pretty reasonable
the
price.
gentleman from the state bid list only offered us 20. He hadn't seen our truck, which was gonna require, because of course, when I make the purchase, I gotta drive to Burlington with a check. So I was gonna have to drive all the way to Burlington, have him look at the truck, come back, get an updated quote, you know, and so his quote when he initially sent it was gonna be about $37.58, right, at 20. So even if he gave us the
Net was
25, they
37.
gave us, yeah, he would have been at like 32, and we ended up at 36.4. and we did it locally.
And,
You know, so all in all, we were pretty close.
we needed this truck, right?
We needed to
It's
upgrade
gonna
the
be
truck so it could pull.
Okay.
Well, they start with a diesel truck too.
Yeah,
Towing
yeah,
capacity on the two trucks is no different. So the three,
No,
the actual towing capacity,
well, the one was a
maybe.
6-cylinder, one's an 8.
Makes a big
But-
Cummins diesel, I mean,
but as far as the equipment that you're towing,
yes,
again, like,
it was to
Let's
take on
just-
plowing, it was for plowing.
let's be
I'm
real,
not
like, it
gonna-
was not because we needed a new truck to pull with.
It was
that is
because we
not-
were looking to take on plowing.
That would be the
For
right answer,
sure.
exactly.
And I've been pushing this in this office for over a year. That the move would be to eventually try to take on plowing because
That's
we
my
could, because it
concern.
could pay for itself.
Is that the conversation's been happening for a year.
So I hear you, Drew, I really do. But again, I feel like we're stepping into an area that we actually hire people that we need to trust to act on our behalf.
Right.
You're asking for us to be informed, and I'm fine, you know, as long as we want to have long board meetings and have lots of information, I don't care how much we do. But what I'm saying is, I think there comes a time when we just have to sort of accept that we've hired them to do this to work on our behalf.
Maybe that's the
And
problem with education right now, is that boards have spent too much time just blindly trusting and not enough time going,
I don't think
Do we
that's the
really
problem with
need-
education right now.
do we really need? Like,
We're-
maybe
we're
we need to
actually-
have that question. Do we really need? And maybe for every one of these lines, the question is, do we really need? Because,
I feel like
like,
there isn't much in there, Drew, that you don't really need.
And we just talked about stretching the dollars. I mean, that sounds like a.
I mean, I got a 5-year operational plan, so
Happy
I'm gonna be
about that.
doing projects all the time that I've been talking about for a long time. You know, and they may not be with you because they're gonna be in the budget that's gonna have 70 grand in it, and that flooring project is 10 of that 70. And so,
and maybe the problem that I'm having with it is that you have been so clear about all the other projects. And like the first time you bought the truck, it came to the board, we talked about the flooring projects. You know, maybe that's the issue, is that we've been really well informed in this one thing. We decided, or maybe not, it wasn't a decision, it just wasn't communicated to the point where I'm hearing about it from the public going, well, look at that. They bought themselves shiny new tools. Well, we're trying to figure out why we can't educate kids. Like, maybe that's the challenge, right? Is that the past practice has been that you provided us a lot of great information about very detailed things that we were doing, and this just didn't come through. Like, maybe that is the difference.
yeah, and I will attribute it to the timing of like the board meetings to summer happening to like, then for me, like it just, that feels, to be honest, it feels like, well, it just feels like forever ago since we bought the truck. You know what I mean? Like, just because there's been so much. So, I mean, I do respect it, man, and I'm sorry that we didn't. I'm not, like I said, I'm not dumb enough to think that no one's gonna notice a shiny red truck on the D-level lot right there.
They
Every
did
time.
notice.
Well, like, I've had more comments about that than anything else that you've done there. It's
Yeah,
just like,
frankly, it's
Which
kind of
is-
appalling to me.
Yeah,
All the other stuff that gets done.
Which I'll be honest with you,
Really?
what's amazing that you say that is one of the things that I will tell you has beat me down this year was the difference from 5 years ago when we started and how excited people were when we would replace a ceiling to now the attitude that we get from people where we invest, I don't know, $50,000 in a floor between asbestos removal and the new floor down, and we get like, at least it doesn't smell like dog piss. That was the response I got from that staff member. So like, yeah, man, that's hard, dude. That's hard to take when you're working 12 hours a day for 8 to 10 weeks. That like, that's the thanks you get, you know?
So I think this is good conversation. Some things we might agree to. I'm gonna be honest, I have a very personal reason to try to end this so I can get home and get on a Wyndham meeting by 6 o'clock. I don't want to be stuck here for it, so that I can be home later, earlier. So is there anything else from board members that you want to be able to get from us at the next full board meeting? I know it's coming up quick. We don't know. I don't know if you've checked the emails recently. There's been some pushback around moving it back to Monday. Well, you manage all that fun stuff. Not from Emily.
This had nothing to do with me,
Not from these
had nothing
guys.
to do with Al, we didn't ask for anything.
Well, we put out a query and I saw you guys are like, oh, we can't come. I'm like, oh, I guess that,
I
we won't move it then.
I was very pleased when we got the new notice, but I
So
don't
check your
think
email. There's
anybody,
some
I
others.
hope no one's thinking that it was me or you, Al, because I knew neither of us
I
had
did.
asked for it.
You did, yeah.
I'm like, Bob thinks you two are special.
Yeah.
Oh, it was me.
It's actually true,
It was
yeah.
me.